Hi, I'm Denise Walden with Walden Floral Design, and today we'll construct a boutonniere, corsage bow, pin-on corsage, and a wrist corsage. Enjoy! These are Viking mums. Beautiful little daisy-like flowers, salal leaf, and gunna eucalyptus. Today we're using 22 gauge wire, which we will cut in half for the daisy palms. Note how I'm cutting this wire. I'm holding the top half with 2 fingers and the bottom half with my thumb and another finger. This prevents the wire from just shooting off to the other side of the room. You just have more control over the cut. We'll select our palms that we'll be using for this. Remove any just old or broken pieces, petals. The stem length should be about a finger width. You want to remove the stems. The purpose of wiring and taping is not only to have more control over your flower, but we're replacing the stems with wire and tape. With hook wiring, we're inserting that wire up through the center of the stem, creating the hook with our needle nose plier, then pull this wire back through the disc till it disappears. And we'll tape that in a moment. You will pick up speed as a designer if you cut everything all at once, all your materials, wire all of your materials, and then tape all of your materials. It's a little bit speedier. I'm selecting our salal leaf here, stitch wire. Notice I'm using a full length wire in this case. I need a little bit more length for this one. You could probably use a 3/4 length. To get this done would be just fine. Bend the 2 wires down after inserting. Notice the little stitch on the front, and we'll tape it in place. Gunna eucalyptus has nice small leaves that work real well in a boutonniere. Corsage work as well. We're selecting what we need, leaving some stem length. Because these are so small, I wouldn't wire these, we'll just insert these. So now we're ready to assemble. We have all of our materials ready. Placing that first flower, no matter what it is, keep a little distance between the top of the leaf and your flower. Tape as you need to. If you can hold your entire boutonniere and then tape it in one go, then do it. But most people need to do it maybe in 2 or 3 steps. We're adding our gunna eucalyptus here. Nice foliage, nice small leaves. I'm adjusting a little bit and then taping it together. we'll cut the end of our boutonniere to about 3 finger lengths. I like using the width of my fingers to measure the stems, especially when assembling maybe a dozen or so boutonnieres for a wedding. It helps you keep all the stem lengths consistent. As I'm wrapping here, I do add a little bit more tape in this area, as you can put the pin through the stem a little bit easier. So this is about 3 finger lengths. The wires are raw. That could catch on clothing. So I'm going to finish off that stem a little bit more, going up a little bit higher, adding a little bit more bulk. You don't want it real thick. Our stem is nicely completed. And now we're just adding boutonniere pins as how we would deliver them. Six loop corsage bow. This ribbon is very nice to work with. It's a filament edge sheer corsage ribbon. Start with the tail of the ribbon facing you in your non-dominant hand and make a loop. Twist, pinch it with your thumb and forefinger, loop below, twist, pinch, loop one more bow above, one loop above, pinch, twist and pinch, twist and pinch, hold that in place, that ribbon in place. It'll want to slip out of your fingers. Another loop, twist, pinch between your 2 fingers, loop down, pinch. Use a good pair of scissors. We want to cut on an angle so that your ribbon doesn't fray. Here's my wire. I don't need a whole one, so I'm cutting that in half and then bending it and dropping it in the middle of the bow. I'll turn it a couple of times, as tight as I can, but here's a secret to get it a little bit tighter. If you crank that wire a little bit, that tightens it up. Be careful not to break your wire, but it helps fluff up those loops a little bit too for your corsage. Ready for our corsage. For our pin-on corsage, I like to use leather leaf fern as the backing because it has a natural triangular shape to it. So we'll use the wraparound wiring for leather leaf. Leather leaf can have kind of a brittle central stem, so reinforcing with, this is 24 gauge wire, gives it support and gives you some flexibility. Our daisy palm, we'll use the hook wire method with it. Alstroemeria, remove all the anthers, they create pollen. And lovely little spray rose. This variety is called Snowflake. Remove any damaged petals. Notice these are being all cut with about the same stem length, about a fingertip width. Wire everything up. Then we'll tape everything up, and assembly will be much faster. Pierce wiring Boutonniere. Be gentle on this flower. It can be a little delicate. Pierce wiring also for our little spray rose. And wrap around or clutch wiring for baby's breath. Again, this variety is called Million Stars Gypsophila. And we'll go ahead and tape everything up now that it's wired. Boutonniere, tape a little bit higher on Boutonniere. It helps protect the petals, reinforces them. Everything's wired and taped. Now we shall assemble our corsage. I've placed the topmost flower toward the peak of the triangle, adding 2 little spray roses. The one daisy will help create a focal area, especially in combination with the corsage bow. It'll give a little weight to the base of a little visual weight to the base of the corsage. We'll tuck that in right there. Tuck in a little bit of baby's breath. Because we have good control with the wired leather leaf, we can pull it back, put it back in. It's time to tape it all together, make it a little bit more secure. And then add our little bow. Don't leave your stem too long. Again, I tend to use about 3 finger widths. Cut those stems. Again, be careful of that wire. You don't want that caught on anyone's clothing. And we'll finish it off with our floral tape. Adjust your corsage as needed. And And don't forget your corsage pins as you are packaging. Typically 2 corsage pins would go with each corsage. Just place them in the stem before packaging up. Wrist corsage. We've wired and taped baby's breath, spray roses, alstroemeria, daisy palms. We have wired up leather leaf and our corsage bow. The easiest way I find to assemble a wrist corsage is start with the bow in the center. And I like working from the middle up and the middle down. So this is our focal area. There's our daisy palm, a little bit of baby's breath, adding an alstroemeria. I'm going to tape these together. At the midpoint of your corsage, bend the wires down so that the next flowers have a little different angle. Think of these as small floral arrangements, kind of like a long and low design, oval shaped. Adding our little spray roses at this point. I'm going to bend this, tuck it into the bottom half of the corsage, and our alstroemeria. Bending it down so it has a very strong angle facing down, and I'll tape all of these together. Keep your tape as smooth as you can. Stretch it, always stretch it as you're taping. See this small piece of leather leaf? Just tucked in there. It's wired. Another small piece. I think it should go right in here. One small piece at the top. And then I'll bend this last piece and tuck it in underneath. A little bit too much leaf. I'll bend it down and tuck it right in. This forms a nice oval-shaped corsage that will sit on your wrist. We're going to add our wristlet now. This is a basic wristlet. There's many decorative ones. These are the easiest and most common. Just point the prongs up. The corsage will actually rest right in that little wrist bed area. Clamp these down around your stems, at first with just your fingers. top and bottom. Press them down. You'll need your needle nose pliers to clamp these tighter. The bottom half of this wrist corsage will be taped, and it'll be taped to the wristlet. Cut off any excess stems. Again, pay attention to the raw wire. We'll tape over those prongs. Because this is taped, we can adjust the corsage, squeeze it in a little bit tighter, or open it up a little bit more. But try on your corsage. See if that's the size. When you're making multiple corsages, make sure they're consistent. And there's our wrist corsage.